I just saw Captain America, The Brave New World twice, okay? I needed to see it a second time just to know whether or not the first time the things I felt were really valid or not before I came out here and just started spouting a bunch of bullcrap out to y'all about how I feel about this movie. And I feel like unequivocally that I could say without a doubt that Captain America, Brave New World is Sam Wilson's Winter Soldier, and not in a good way. I mean, they literally just took the same exact plot line from Captain America Winter Soldier, slapped it onto Brave New World, and then we're like, let's see if it does the same thing for Sam Wilson that it did for Steve Rogers. And unfortunately, it came up a little bit short. Without further ado, let's get right into it though and break down this chaotic mess of a movie. It's really the only way I could kind of really describe it. It's the chaotic mess of a movie. But that doesn't mean it doesn't have its moments. So the film starts off with Thaddeus Ross being inaugurated as the President of the United States. This makes sense to me. The guy's got a pretty great track record of serving his country. We could just forget that whole like blowing up New York and Harlem thing for now, even though they do bring it up in this movie. We even get a shout out to his estranged daughter, Betty Ross, who was played by Liv Tyler. So you can already see right away they're establishing that this is kind of a sequel to The Incredible Hulk. They do criticize General Ross for the way that he handled the whole Harlem thing, but then applaud him for being able to capture the man who created the Abomination. But if you remember correctly, Mr. Blue only created the Abomination because Blonsky made him do it. We fast forward 5 months into the presidency of Thaddeus Ross, and we catch up with Sam Wilson's Captain America as he's on a mission. I will say that I do appreciate the aviation aspect to this Captain America. He could basically turn himself into a jet fighter if he wanted to, which I think comes off really cool because then you could add in like Top Gun Maverick aspects to these movies that you probably couldn't do with Steve Rogers. So that's 1 point for this movie. There is one particular thing that I want to point out here that absolutely drove me crazy, and that is that we all are aware that Sam Wilson hasn't taken the Super Soldier Serum, correct? So please tell me how this does not absolutely break the shit out of his legs with this landing here.
Wait for it.
Secondly, why does he take off his helmet? Even the Black Panther wears a vibranium helmet, and that guy's super powered. So if I was someone who was going to be fighting Captain America, I would just immediately start aiming for his head, because he is a normal guy. So one shot to the brain and it's over, right? I know, it's supposed to be a superhero movie, and I'm supposed to suspend my beliefs or whatever, but I don't know. To me, this just seems like a pretty stupid move. Plus, I thought the helmet looked really cool. I mean, look at the difference between him with the helmet on, him with the helmet off. He looks 10 times more intimidating with that helmet on. Again, I know I might be obsessing over this helmet a little bit, but ask yourselves, if you were Captain America and you knew you had no superpower other than the fact that you were pretty athletic and you were pretty agile with these wings, don't you think it would make more sense to fight with your helmet on in case you risk, a stray bullet to your head that could kill you in a second, or someone accidentally gets you from behind, gives you brain damage? Bet you wish you were wearing a helmet then. This makes no sense to me why he would take it off. These are just little things that really kind of annoyed me, because had Captain America wore this helmet throughout the majority of this movie, I think that he would have looked a lot cooler. Yeah, a little Power Ranger-ish, but he's a superhero. Here's just another quick example of Sam Wilson leaving his head clearly exposed. Yes, he's using the wings to absorb the kinetic energy from the bullets being fired at him to then send that energy back at the combatants that he's up against. But look at his head. Anybody who has somewhat of aim can probably take him out right there and this whole movie's over. Sam gets the order to go after the package, but he says, "No, sir, I am Captain America. I don't give no crap about no packages. I'm going after the people because I have to show how noble and how great of a guy I actually am." But this plays out exactly as it's supposed to so that we can meet Turbo Man Torres, who is the sidekick to Captain America. You'll see why I call him Turbo Man in just 1 second. We find out that Sidewinder, who is the head of the Serpent Society, is present at the buy, and he's not supposed to be here. Sidewinder doesn't really fit into this whole movie. I feel like he didn't even need to be here. He's just another obstacle for Sam Wilson to overcome. Of course, to show off just how evil Sidewinder actually is, he's held up a bunch of priests and nuns, because nothing says evil like taking priests and nuns hostages. Apparently, whoever the buyer was for the adamantium that Sidewinder collected is a no-show, so he's expecting these priests and these nuns to somehow manage to pay up for this adamantium. Now, I'll be honest, if I was the priest, I might have coughed it up, because that'd be one cool-looking crucifix. Can you imagine a church full of adamantium crucifixes? No vampire would step near that place. So maybe the priest should have coughed up the money. I don't understand why Sidewinder would think that the these priests or these nuns would have any clue who this buyer is. Clearly, at this point, the guy should be smart enough to realize this is a setup. But, you know, being the evil jerk he is, he orders his serpent soldiers to eliminate these hostages one by one. And it just so happens that right as he's about to execute these hostages, it comes over the radio that Captain America has arrived, which causes Sidewinder to just basically abandon killing these hostages and then prepare for Captain America, who he should have expected to show up either way. You're about to kill a bunch of people. And just like that, out of nowhere, here comes Captain America with a high knee saying, "Get the f out of my face. You don't kill no nuns and priests on my watch, sucker." So after Captain America kicks some serious ass without no super soldier serum, because this black man don't need no help from no super soldier serum, he ends up coming across a couple of hostages who are being held at gunpoint by some crazy Serpent Society people. He sneaks up Red Wing behind them, and Red Wing ends up neutralizing the hostiles without them even seeing it. But I know what you're thinking. What about the adamantium? Aren't they getting away? Well, no, because Turbo Man Torres, the Falcon, is on that case. So Sam Wilson gives Turbo Man Torres, aka the new Falcon, the go-ahead to go after the adamantium, while Sam Wilson ends up trying to track down Sidewinder. Unfortunately for Sam Wilson, though, Sidewinder has one more powerhouse up his sleeve. One of Sidewinder's head goons attacks Sam from behind, and my guess is that this was the character that was originally supposed to be played by Seth Rollins. Now, you may ask yourself, E.G., how could you know that? Well, just take a look at what he does to Captain America. This is like some pro wrestling shit right here.
Not that hard. Where did your rib go? You need a minute?
Nope, let's get this over with. I got shit to do today.
While Captain America is busy getting powerbombed through tables, Turbo Man Torres ends up taking out the Serpent Society guys that are riding away with the package. Now, if you keep wondering why I call him Turbo Man, just take a good look at him right here. Tell me he doesn't look exactly like Turbo Man from Jingle All the Way.
Nobody saw that. Sam, package is secured.
Oh, it appears that Turbo Man has saved the day.
You know you see it. I know I might have just ruined a character for everybody who watches this video, and now we'll refer to him as Turbo Man Torres, but it's undeniable. Captain America ends up beating the head goon as expected. He's Captain America. He needs to win. But do you guys remember how I kept comparing this to Winter Soldier and saying they kind of like almost remade the movie with just different characters? Well, take a look at this fight from Captain America Winter Soldier and tell me it doesn't remind you of the fight that we just talked about in Captain America Brave New World.
Je croyais que tu étais plus qu'un bouclier.
On va droit.
Captain America I dreamt of killing was bigger than you.
I'm happy to disappoint.
I bet you break easy.
Not that easy.
I mean, you're essentially looking at the same fight taking place in two different movies with two different Captain Americas, because if you ask a lot of fans where the turning point for Captain America was, everybody says it was in Winter Soldier. So I think that Marvel just thinks, hey, if we take a lot of really great moments from Winter Soldier, throw them into Brave New World, maybe we'll get the same result for our current Captain America. And honestly, it's just that simple. So Captain America beats the goon, Sidewinder escapes, Turbo Man Torres was able to recapture the adamantium, and all is well in the world. Torres goes to Cap and says, listen, if I'm gonna be Falcon, I need to learn all the things you know. To which Cap says, listen, I got a guy who will teach you all the basics, but he's not very nice. He's of course referring to Isaiah Bradley. If you're not familiar with who Isaiah Bradley is, he's a throwback character to the Korean War, where he was a super soldier during that time. He was actually Captain America during the Korean War. However, due to the fact that he wasn't a white man, according to Falcon and Winter Soldier, his record was swiped off and hidden away, and then Isaiah Bradley himself was actually locked away for many years for war crimes that he apparently did not commit. It was pretty much a big point in Falcon and Winter Soldier. However, I would say it would be an interesting idea to either do a TV show focused around Isaiah Bradley, because who wouldn't want to see some Captain America in the Korean War, you know what I'm saying? Maybe that's just me, but I do think he's an interesting character. But this is where the movie starts to fall apart. So Sam Wilson and Joaquin Torres end up going into a training montage with Isaiah Bradley, the Korean War Captain America, aka the Forgotten Cap, and they get a call while they're there, and they're invited to a White House meeting. Sam Wilson essentially says, I will only come to this White House meeting as long as I can bring Isaiah Bradley with me. Isaiah Bradley, of course, was wiped from the history books for bigoted reasons, and Sam's trying to do what he can to reestablish this guy's notoriety and for him to get accolades for the heroics that he actually achieved during those times. So Sam Wilson, Isaiah Bradley, and Joaquin Torres get a nice cool limo, and they're invited to the White House dinner. This is meant to be like a feel-good moment, like a moment for Isaiah Bradley to finally be getting the recognition that he deserves for all the heroics that he did during the Korean War. Harrison Ford tells Sam Wilson that he wants him to bring back the Avengers, but where the hell are the Avengers? They're scattered everywhere. I mean, most of the Avengers are gone. The closest thing that we have to the Avengers right now are probably the Thunderbolts. And I have high hopes for that movie, so I'm excited. I hope that they do that movie right, because they should be stepping up to be like the Dark Avengers or whatever the hell it is that they're setting them up to be. But it does feel very heavily like an Avengers movie. I like all the characters in the Thunderbolts. I'm really looking forward to that. But before we get to the Thunderbolts, we have to finish Captain America Brave New World. You see, the White House dinner starts off real nice and well, but then shit hits the fan. A song starts playing which triggers Isaiah Bradley to turn into a homicidal maniac. And I'll be honest, I feel like this was like ripped straight from the pages of Zoolander.
Concentrate, derelict. Do what you've been trained to do. Kill the Malaysian Prime Minister! It's that damn Hansel. He's so hot right now.
I mean, come on, could that editing have been put together any better than that? I mean, it is literally the same exact idea. Isaiah Bradley ends up being captured, claims he can't remember anything about what just happened. Sam says, I'm gonna get you out of this. And this is where we get to meet one of the new Black Widow characters of the Marvel Universe. And if you're starting to think to yourself, this seems very familiar, you wouldn't be wrong, because this is the same exact plot to Civil War. Bucky gets framed for a crime. Steve Rogers has to do whatever he can to clear Bucky's name. It is literally Marvel just regurgitating the same exact storyline, just with different characters. I understand that Disney wants to try to show that Sam Wilson is just as good as Steve Rogers, but can you do it without having to do the same stories? So Sam Wilson busts in on the president like he's mad at the president for almost getting assassinated, which makes no sense. Like, you would think that Sam Wilson would be like, are you okay, sir? I don't know what the hell just happened there. But Sam's treating it almost like Thunderbolt Ross is behind this, which we will come to find out that Thunderbolt Ross's actions are what kind of got Isaiah Bradley wrapped up into this whole mess. Then we meet Ruth Batsaroff, who is apparently a former Red Room Black Widow assassin who is pretty much hired as the security chief for Thunderbolt Ross to protect him. Now, I don't know about you, but one look at her, she doesn't seem like she'd be a very intimidating combatant. I'll admit, the first time I saw Ruth, I wasn't really a big fan. I felt like she was only put in this movie to be like, look, girls can kick ass too. Even small women can be dangerous. But upon the second viewing, she kind of grew on me a little bit. I don't think she's a bad character. I just feel like she might be forced into this. And I'm not going to fault Ruth's character or the actress that plays her. She did the best she could with the character that she was given. I mean, who's going to turn down an opportunity to play the new Black Widow? Although, I hate to say it, but, you know, Scarlett Johansson and this actress, I mean, they're not really even in the same league. But, you know, maybe it's just me, maybe my misogyny showing through here, but I always kind of figured that like these Black Widow spies, half of the reason they were so deadly was because of how beautiful they are. And I'm not like saying that she's ugly or anything like that. I think she's far from ugly, but I just don't think that she's like, you got what I'm saying. She's just not like that Scarlett Johansson level of beauty that we're used to seeing the Black Widow people be. Anyway, I'm gonna move on before the feminists have my head for this comment, but yeah, that's just how I feel about it as a man watching. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that sometimes I think that there's some women that are more attractive than others, okay? Don't kill me for it. All right, I'm not saying again that I think that Ruth's unattractive. I just don't think that she's like Scarlett Johansson. Okay, I'm done. I'm not gonna keep doing this. I'm not gonna do it. We'll do it live. Anyway, Sam Wilson does his best attempt to try to convince the president that Isaiah Bradley had nothing to do with this, which obviously Ruth doesn't believe for a second, and frankly, neither does Thunderbolt Ross. I mean, after you just got shot at, you'd probably be a little pissed though too, right? Ruth tells the president that Isaiah wasn't the only shooter. In fact, there was 5 total, including some Secret Service people, which opens up at least the idea that there's some weird thing happening here, and that most of these people probably not trying to kill him voluntarily. militarily. President Ross tells Sam that he's too close to this investigation and that he doesn't want him involved in it at all, and lets Ruth head up the investigation. But of course, since Disney's trying to sell us on the idea that Sam Wilson is the same exact type of guy as Steve Rogers, he's not going to settle for that, and he's going to go and try to clear the guy's name no matter what it takes. We see President Ross pop some pills, which will come into play later. Sam goes to visit with Isaiah Bradley. Isaiah Bradley obviously says, "I'm innocent. I don't know what the heck just happened, but please, whatever you do, don't destroy your life trying to save mine." As Sam's going to investigate some more into the Isaiah Bradley mind warp thing that took place at the White House, he's attacked by Sidewinder of the Serpent Society. This gives a real Winter Soldier feel when Steve Rogers was also randomly attacked by Bucky. Sidewinder ends up destroying Sam's really nice truck. In typical bad guy fashion, Sidewinder claims that he took out Captain America without any proof that he actually killed him, which leads to a fight between Sidewinder and Cap. Sam ends up getting stabbed twice by Sidewinder and just kind of shakes it off like nothing happened. Sidewinder claims that Cap is desperate without his gear before getting drop kicked into next week.
Nope. Just a little meaner.
Sam does have a lot of great one-liners in this movie, but I don't know, man. It just, at no point in this movie does it ever feel like the stakes are high. Sam defeats Sidewinder and he gets a call. For the first time, we actually end up hearing from the Thinker, who is the big bad guy of this whole entire movie. Ross meets with a bunch of world leaders who are pissed off that they almost just got whacked at his little gala thing that he had talking about adamantium and the treaty. But Japan specifically has withdrawn from the treaty. Treaties between Japan and the US with a bunch of smaller countries involved. But Japan is like the most crucial part to making this treaty work. And right now, they are not happy and do not want to play ball. As Raz goes to question the other shooters that participated in the attempted assassination on President Ross, the song plays over the radio of the security guard who just opens the door and ends up wasting the other shooters. Luckily, though, Isaiah Bradley was not in the same prison as these men. Warden Cooper, who is the guy in charge of where the Thinker's being kept, ends up being assassinated while he's on the phone with President Ross. You can see on President Ross's face the concern because he knows that these secrets are secrets that he does not want to get out to the public. Sam and Joaquin end up breaking into the same prison where the warden was just eliminated a moment ago, trying to find answers. They end up stumbling upon Mr. Blue's laboratory. You know, the same Mr. Blue from The Incredible Hulk. Sam ends up stumbling upon a medical history report from General Ross where it talks about the pills that he's been taking. While General Ross thinks that he's been taking these pills to keep himself alive, it turns out that the Thinker has been lacing these pills with gamma radiation. President Ross ends up meeting with the leader of Japan in hopes of trying to figure out a way to keep this treaty alive. However, the Japanese people do not want anything to do with General Ross at the moment because they do not trust him. This ends up creating some serious tension between the two nations. While Sam and Joaquin are sitting in the laboratory of the Thinker, they find out that the Thinker has figured out a way to use this song to give subcommands to people using their genetic code. Also known as the plot of the movie Zoolander. We get a chance to look at the Thinker before his transformation, which many of you guys will remember from the Incredible Hulk movie. We finally get our first look at the Thinker, who I gotta admit looks kind of like broccoli. I guess his brain expanded so much from the gamma radiation that it just grew outside of his skull. But he also lets us know that General Ross, after the events of the Incredible Hulk, locked him up without a trial and just kind of kept him there as his own personal little think tank. This would explain why we haven't heard from him. And of course, it turns out that the Thinker has been behind everything. He was the buyer. He was the one who hired the Serpent Society. He hired everybody. He's been the one pushing and pulling the strings since the beginning of this movie. The Thinker also tells us that Ross knew that he was behind all the attacks, the Isaiah Bradley mind warp, all the other people who tried to shoot him. Thaddeus Ross is letting those people take the fall for it because he doesn't want the public to know that he's been keeping this man locked up as his own personal little slave. Now, I'll admit, I think that this storyline makes a lot of sense for this movie because if you go back to The Incredible Hulk, you can remember that Thaddeus Ross has always looked at Bruce Banner as like his own property, the property of the military. The gamma radiation that was in the Hulk is the property of the US military. It wouldn't surprise me that he would look at the Thinker and think the same thing. The Thinker calls in his henchmen to stop Sam and Joaquin. Sam says, "You really think they're gonna stop us?" Sam and Joaquin obviously end up kicking these guys' asses after a hard-fought battle. And just as it looks like that Sam and Joaquin are gonna have to fight a bunch of other guys, who shows up but Ruth, the violent little midget woman. Ruth, together with Sam and Joaquin, are able to defeat the rest of the henchmen from the Thinker. You know, I'm aware that there's a lot of badass women out there, but if you're gonna really sit here and try and convince me me that this 90-pound little girl is going to be able to fight off 4 fully grown men? I guess I'm just going to have to tell you comic book movies. I mean, for real, just look at her standing next to these two guys. You're telling me that this little girl is able to just straight up whoop men's ass like they're nothing. All right. I mean, Disney's going to Disney, all right? Do your thing, I guess, but I don't know. I find it more likely that the Iron Man suit would be a real thing before I'd imagine this little girl would kick 4 grown men's ass. They try to arrest Captain America as he's leaving the base for breaking into the base, which I guess kind of makes sense. But they end up having the mind control song start, which gives them the opportunity to escape. While all this is going down, Japan decides that they're going to just use their military to go and just take Celestial Island by force. So then Thaddeus Ross decides, you know what? We're going to have to beat them at their own game, and we're going to have to get there first. So now there's a race to Celestial Island to try to claim it. During the arguments back and forth, you could see that it's starting to stress out President Ross, which everybody's seen the trailer. You know what happens if you make him angry. But luckily for them, he doesn't end up hulking out here yet. Ross ends up saying that if one country's going to be controlling adamantium, it's going to be the United States of America. Like I always say, these colors don't run, baby. Sam ends up meeting up with his Navy SEAL buddies and then gives them the pills and says, I need you to look into what's in these pills, which I'm sure the Navy SEALs probably have resources out the ass. Sam ends up interrogating Sidewinder and starts talking to him about Samuel Stearns, who is also known as the Thinker, the main enemy of this whole entire movie. Sam ends up talking to Sidewinder about what exactly happened to the Thinker, whereas Bruce Banner and Harrison Ford were given the power of strength, like the Hulk. Samuel Stearns, the gamma radiation decided to make him incredibly smart. Sidewinder goes on to mention that Thaddeus Ross didn't even try to help Samuel Stearns. In fact, he put more gamma radiation into him to try to make him even smarter, try to turn him into a weapon, which is what led to the deformities that you see on Samuel Stearns. Sidewinder also says that Samuel Stearns was promised to be released by Thaddeus Ross once he became president, which obviously did not happen considering he was still in prison 5 months after Thaddeus Ross was president. Samuel Stearns ends up going to the house of an admiral in the Navy, and you'll find out later it's because he wants to be able to take control of some of the jets that are in the air around the Celestial Island. We finally get to the Celestial Island where we see Cap and Falcon flying towards the big mass of outer spaceness that is the Celestial Monster. This is by far my most favorite part of this entire movie. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I am a huge fan of military aviation. Anybody who knows me knows that some of my favorite games are like military aviation simulators. And this particular part of the movie really did give me like a Top Gun type of feel. And I thought that this movie really thrived in this particular environment. Like Captain America Brave New World is at its best during the Celestial fight. Captain America, Falcon, Ruth, the whole crew end up on the same ship where President Ross is staying to try to, I guess, do last-minute peace deals with Japan to avoid an all-out World War III over the Celestial Island. Sam ends up suggesting to Ross that he knows what's really going on here. He knows about the Thinker, and it's time to fess up and avoid World War III. We get a quick look at 2 F-18 Hornets that are flying in the air, patrolling around the Celestial Island. Unfortunately for them, they're about to get mind-controlled. Sam tells Thaddeus Ross that Stearns has been behind all this and that he does not control Stearns anymore. In fact, Stearns has been controlling him for quite some time now. It seems that Thaddeus Ross had no idea that Stearns was as powerful as he was, and I guess Thaddeus Ross felt like he was in control of Stearns as long as Stearns was in prison. But boy, was he wrong. Sam ends up pressing the president about why he was visiting these CIA black sites, which Thaddeus Ross then screams, "I was dying." Sam tries to talk to Thaddeus Ross and tell him, hey, you know, you don't always gotta be a kind of a douchebag. You could be a good man now and do the right thing by admitting, you know, what's going on with this Thinker guy. But of course, Thaddeus Ross kind of just ignores that for now. The meeting's interrupted when a staffer comes in and tells them that 2 F-18s are firing on the Japanese fleet. Now, obviously, President Ross didn't give that order. That means that these men are under mind control. Thaddeus Ross says, we need to get 2 birds in the air, which Sam says, you got 2 birds ready to go right here, sir. And one of them happens to be Captain Motherfucking America.
Gotta get our birds in the air.
You have 2 ready to fly now, sir.
Go.
Now, maybe I'm just being nitpicky here. If you take a good look at their backs, I don't see where you could possibly fit that much wingspan in those little packs. Where are they even storing those wings at? Someone tell me. Where are they even storing them? I know they're vibranium, but vibranium doesn't break the laws of physics. I guess we're just gonna have to chalk it up to comic book movies. So Sam and Joaquin try to get the attention of the Japanese fighters first, who are flying F-35s, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like that would be the one that we would be using since we made those airplanes. Yes, I know we distribute them to other people, but why are we sending out F-18s against F-35s? That'd be like not a very fair fight, in my opinion. Even though Sam and Joaquin try to get the Japanese people to stop firing on the U.S. because they're being mind controlled and that's not actually us doing it, they still fire anyway because YOLO. The U.S. carrier fleet tries to fire down the missiles shot by the Japanese pilots. Even though I'd say this movie is probably not like the greatest Marvel movie, I will say there are really some well put together action sequences, such as this one particularly here where Sam jumps on the missile and tries to surf it down to make it blow up. Although it could kill him too. I don't know if he realizes that, but that could easily kill him too if that missile goes off. President Ross tries to beg Japan to call off their planes, but Japan, not trusting General Ross, to be honest, say pretty much no. The Japanese make a good point here when they ask President Ross, if these pilots are not listening to you, who are they listening to? Which obviously, as the audience, we know they're listening to the Thinker, but General Ross does not want anybody to know that the Thinker is even a thing. Sam, in a desperate attempt to try to bring down the rogue F-18s, goes face to face with one in a really cool moment, probably one of the cooler moments of this whole entire movie. Joaquin's able to eject the guy somehow with an auto-ejection thing that he has on his hand, which I didn't even know was a thing, but I guess, writers could just kind of do whatever they want in the Marvel movies. While Sam's up in the air battling these planes, the Thinker's on the phone with President Ross, kind of just messing with him, being a professional troll, if you will. I also gotta add, for somebody without super soldier serum, Sam seems to be ridiculously athletic and have the most amazing hand-eye coordination of any non-superhero person in the world. After Jackal's F-18 shoots its last missiles, Joaquin's able to take out one, but for some reason, Sam has a bad feeling about him taking out the second one and tells him to back off, which ends up causing Joaquin to get exploded. Eventually, Captain America takes out the last plane in a magnificent fashion, somehow is able to fly out of the water. Don't even ask me how the physics behind that work, causing the Japanese to withdraw their planes. But unfortunately for Joaquin, he flew a little too close to the sun and he got taken out. I mean, what are sidekicks for if not to be a casualty to war, While Sam's watching Torres's surgery, an old friend, Bucky, shows up. Let's be honest, I think that it's pretty safe to say that Sebastian Stan showing up in any Marvel movie now gets people excited. Unfortunately, it's not enough to save this movie. Since you can't actually have Steve Rogers show up and give Sam a pep talk, I think the next best thing you can do is have Sebastian Stan show up to give him a pep talk, which is exactly what he does. This right here, bar none, is the best moment of this whole entire movie that is not action. All right, let's just be clear that firefight between the F-18s and the fighter jets was cool. All right, that's the best part of the movie. But this here is the most humanistic part of the movie because they're talking about the realistic consequences of whether or not they should have took the serum. Remember, Sam is just a normal guy. Even though I think they kind of jazz him up a little bit, I don't think any normal person would be able to be capable of the things that Sam's been capable of in this movie. But it's wrestling with the applications of whether or not he should or should not have taken the super soldier serum. Personally, I think he should have. If he's this good without the serum, imagine how good he'd be with the serum. Sam tells Bucky that he thinks that Steve made a mistake, which again goes back to Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's the whole point of it is Sam not really feeling like he should be Captain America and he'll never live up to what Steve Rogers could do. He's still feeling that almost 2 movies later. At some point, he's going to have to lean into it, embrace who he is as Captain America. Nobody's ever going to be Steve Rogers. Let's just be realistic about that. There's a reason why Steve Rogers is freaking Steve Rogers. But he could be the first Sam Wilson. There's a line that Bucky says here that I think really is where I think that Disney missed the mark. And it's almost like they're self-aware of this. It's when Bucky says, Steve gave people something to believe in because he was a super soldier. You give people something to aspire to because you're just a normal guy trying your best. I feel like if Disney focused on that aspect of this movie, it would have been 10 times of a better story and showing what Sam couldn't do but still did his best to achieve over him just seeming like he's a superhero anyway because of all the tech that the Wakandans gave him. Again, I honestly feel like that is where Disney missed the mark with this movie. Tell me you as an audience member wouldn't be so much more invested to watch a guy who's basically like Hawkeye trying to achieve something that someone who had super soldier serums and all the greatest scientists behind him him endless resources to do the things he did, try to replace him by someone who is just a normal guy. That's why I've always had so much respect for the John Walker character. Yes, he has the super soldier serum now, but when he first took the mantle of Captain America, he did it all without any kind of help. That to me is cool. And I feel like Disney missed this movie in here somewhere. There was a good movie in here somewhere, and I feel like they just missed the mark. Because you still have Sam doing these incredibly unrealistic things that a normal person couldn't do, which I think would have been a better story if you're trying to show a normal guy trying to do superhero crap.
Did your speechwriters help you with that?
They did, yeah, the ending a little bit. Did you like it?
It was good. Solid B+.
Emotional?
Very. I felt it.
But just enough.
So Sam Wilson and Congressman Bucky Barnes end up parting ways now, with Sam Wilson reinvigorated because a guy from his past came in who knew Steve and gave him the pep talk. It seems like Bucky comes in out of nowhere and gives all these people these amazing pep talks to go and refocus their lives. He would have been a hell of a motivational speaker. Ruth comes up and decides that she would love to get her a piece of Bucky Barnes, but we're not going to get into that right now. Sam Wilson's buddy, who's a Navy SEAL, gets a call about the pills that he's been researching, and unfortunately this is a casualty of war because as soon as he finds out what these pills are, the Thinker shows up and takes his ass out. We join back up with Thaddeus Ross, who gets a phone call from none other than his daughter Betty Ross. She's essentially like, "Hey Dad, sorry, I probably should have called you after they tried to kill you, but I was still a little mad about you trying to kill my big green boyfriend who I haven't talked to for years and actually looks completely different than the guy that I dated at the time." This is where the pacing of this movie kind of gets weird because it does feel like at this point the movie is over, but we still haven't gotten to the final fight yet. Thaddeus Ross is giving a speech about how they avoided World War III and how everything's good thanks to Captain America, when out of nowhere, the Thinker puts his final piece of his plan in action, turning Harrison Ford into the Red Hawk. The funny thing about Harrison Ford turning into the Red Hawk, the Secret Service pretty much immediately get ready to kill him. Isn't your main job to protect the president regardless of what he looks like? She's just like, "Oh, he a Hulk? I'm gonna kill his ass now. I don't care if it's my job to protect him." I will say the CGI does seem a little strange for this Hulk. I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm looking at it as a Red Hawk, but it does seem a little odd. And his hair's like really nice all of a sudden and not gray anymore. Again, the Secret Service just totally ignore the fact that this is the President of the United States and they just start trying to kill him. Even though he hasn't hurt anybody yet, they're just straight up just trying to murder the President of the United States. I mean, seriously, did anybody else pick up on this or not? But he turns into the Red Hawk. He just kind of walks around like he's a little confused. And then everybody just starts shooting at him and Captain America comes in and just throws a shield at his head. Makes literally no sense whatsoever. The guy hasn't threatened anybody yet, and they just immediately go right to hitting the shit out of him. Also, at one point, Sam literally catches with his own bare arms the Red Hawk swinging around a pole. Wouldn't these like just shatter his arms? How is he able to catch that? He does not have super strength. This is where the movie gets me so frustrated when it comes to his power levels. He's supposed to be like this normal guy who's never taken the serum, yet he's able to catch with his bare hands a flagpole swung by the Red Hulk. Eventually, Sam leads the Red Hulk to where the cherry blossoms are, which they've been talking about this whole movie and how much Harrison Ford likes to take walks with Betty in the cherry blossom. So I guess he was trying to do like this sun's getting real low kind of thing to try to get him to calm down, but it doesn't seem to work. Also, if you notice, like Sam continuously keeps stabbing the Red Hulk. And I heard one channel say that it's because the Red Hulk doesn't have impenetrable skin like the Green Hulk. But let's remember, Sam's suit's made of vibranium, which is like the only reason I think that he's able to get those stabs to take. Because if you watch the bullets, they all bounce off him just like they did the Green Hulk. So I don't know if I truly believe that. I think it might have been New Rockstars or a channel like that that said that the reason the Red Hulk was getting cut is because he's not as strong as the Green Hulk. But again, the bullets were bouncing off him. I think it just has to do with the vibranium. Eventually, the Red Hulk gets the better of Sam and just rips off his jetpack and throws down his shield, almost as like a "I'm done playing with you" type of thing. Sam, with only one wing left, uses his last-ditch effort of a kinetic strike against the Hulk while he's stabbing him, which ends up flattening the entire Cherry Blossoms walk. Sam says, "Oh man, please tell me I knocked that son of a bitch out," because he's pretty much out of weapons now. And if he were to go head to head in a fight with the Hulk, he'd probably just get his ass beat because, again, he's not supposed to be Super Soldier, but he sure does act like he's Super Soldier. Red Hulk gets up and he's still ready to go, so Sam has no other choice but to just beg and plead with him to not kick his ass. There is a funny moment here where Sam realizes that Bucky was probably blowing smoke up his ass about not taking that serum.
Should have taken that serum. Bucky was full of shit.
And you know what? He probably was right. At least now Sam would still have a chance in this fight. He is at the mercy of the Red Hulk. But again, this is the interesting dynamic that I wish Disney would have explored more throughout this Captain America movie. Sam's limitations. That's where the movie would have been interesting, in my opinion. Eventually, Sam's able to convince Red Hulk to calm the hell down enough to turn back into the President of the United States. There's imagery here that I think is powerful between Thunderbolt Ross, the Red Hulk, and Thunderbolt Ross, the Man. We eventually go to the raft where Thunderbolt Ross is found to be in one of the cells. He relinquished his presidency, and I guess he volunteered to go into this prison, which is funny considering he's the one who created it. Eventually, we finally get to see Betty Ross, who I have to admit looks a little odd. I can't tell if they tried to do CGI to her face or what, but she just, I don't know. She just does not look normal in this scene. We see Isaiah Bradley, who was clearly released from prison because he did not intentionally try to kill the president. We hear that Joaquin is stable, but he's in and out. He's got a big road to recovery ahead of himself. Now let's talk about the post-credit scene that everybody's been talking about. This is supposedly setting up Secret Wars, and everybody's like, oh yeah, the post-credit scene's amazing, but I don't know. For me, it just felt a little lackluster. It's clearly suggesting something to do with the Fantastic Four, Doom, and Avengers Doomsday. But for me, it was, I don't know, lackluster. All right, now that wraps up Captain America Brave New World. So where am I on this movie? Again, I feel like that Marvel missed a great opportunity to really observe the non-super soldier side of a superhero with Sam. But again, I just feel like they just didn't care. Like, even though Sam is not a superhero, they still made him look like one. He doesn't have any superpowers. He doesn't have no superpowers, but yet he could still flip and do all the crazy stuff that somebody with superhero powers could do. So in my opinion, they made it pointless. I feel like the movie wanted so desperately to be Winter Soldier, and it just never got to that level of espionage. The stakes were never as high as it felt like it was in Winter Soldier. I feel like they just tried to do a lot of the same things with Sam as they did with Steve. And it just, I don't know, just something, just no matter what happened in this movie, you just always felt like everything was going to be fine because Sam was going to find a way to pull through, which in Winter Soldier, you didn't get that. Like, Steve sometimes lost, wasn't able to rescue Bucky in Winter Soldier. Bucky got away and you were left wondering what's going to happen from here. And here, everything's resolved. You know, all of a sudden Thunderbolt Ross is like a good guy now in the raft. Like, I would have preferred to see Thunderbolt Ross run off and now you don't know where Red Hulk is and then he can show up somewhere else later. But I'm sure they're probably going to end up throwing him in with another team somewhere along the lines, somewhere down the road, assuming Harrison Ford wants to reprise the role. He's getting older. He's getting up there. But with that said, like, I don't know. I think Moist Critical said that this is like the third worst Marvel movie or something along the lines of that. And I don't know. This is you can never really go into these things expecting to really know where a movie's gonna fall in the echelon of rankings when it first comes out, because you always get that fresh excitement, and it's not until a movie really kind of finds its audience or you see the greater impact overall that you'll really discover where a movie will rank in these Marvel rankings. And for me, this movie was just like meh, you know, but we went into this expecting this movie to be meh. Like, that's, again, and I think that kind of helped the movie a lot, is that a lot of people went into this thinking this movie's gonna suck. So you have low expectations, which usually does better for a movie, because if you go into it thinking it's really gonna be crappy, then you're much more likely to be impressed by the movie than you would be if you went into this movie expecting Captain America to be the most amazing movie ever, and then you got this, you'd be a little let down. But there was again, I just feel like there was an amazing story in here somewhere. I just don't know where the hell it was. And the action sequences were great. Don't get me wrong. I thought the Celestial Island battle was beautiful to watch, really fun, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, it's just lack of consistency. You know, Captain America has like 100 different outfits out of nowhere. Like, why is his helmet white sometimes? Why is it blue sometimes? It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I just feel like this movie had no idea what it wanted to be. And it just did so many reshoots that they eventually were like, okay, let's just stitch it together and do something because we can't spend any more money on this thing, you know? So Marvel's like, all right, just send it out, let it fly. But hopefully now that they are more worried about the storytelling aspects and they realize that the fans aren't just going to blindly go and support these movies just because it has Marvel on the name, I think is going to force Disney and Marvel to get back to the roots of good storytelling, life lessons, not just, you know, somebody trying to live up to the reputation of Steve Rogers, somebody who's their own version of Captain America, you know? Anyway, though, guys, I think I'm going to leave it there. Let me know, though, your opinion. How did you feel about this movie? Was it fun? Did you feel let down? Did you go into this with low expectations? Were you surprised at all? Was there anything in this movie that really kind of struck you that you were like, I was not expecting that? Or were you just like me and I'm just kind of like, meh, it's popcorn fun. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Just a good movie to throw on with your family on a Sunday night. And that's pretty much where you leave it out at. But I remember Marvel used to be so much more than that. I'd like to see them get back to that personally. I'm really excited for the Thunderbolts. I will be honest. I am super, super excited for the Thunderbolts. I really hope Disney doesn't mess it up, but I have high hopes for that. We also have Daredevil coming out. So not all over for Disney yet. There's still some stuff in the pipeline that could save this universe somehow. I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine was a fantastic film. I think that did a great job showing that there is still a love for superhero movies when the stories are done right. Well, anyway, with that said, guys, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
In the realm of endless fight, where truth and justice ignite, he marches on courageous and bold, e.g. lately a hero story told.